Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Friday series where I bring the coolest women I've ever met onto my little show to talk about finding their self-love in totally different situations. We'll wait until some people pop on and then we'll invite Amanda on, but I wanted to give a little prelude of who Amanda is as a person, and then I'll let her share her own story. Amanda is, I met her, I used to work with her. I met her the second week of my job that I currently have right now. And the minute she sat down at her desk, I was like, we're going to be friends. She is kind and caring and has so much ability to just light up an entire room. She has this ability to make you feel comfortable with her the second that you meet her. And I am so excited to have her on today to talk about finding your self-love after, during, and after a trauma. So let's get Amanda on to join us and we will start the live. Hello, Natalie. Hello, Rochelle. There
Hi.
she is, my girl. How are you?
How are you? Let me just
Good.
adjust this a little. Good.
You look gorge.
Well, thanks. It's the first time I put on makeup in forever because
I know, right?
Well, it's like you've nowhere to go and half your face is going to be covered with a mask anyways. So you're like, meh.
Totally. Like maybe you just do your eyes, then the rest is like, wait, that's what it is. How are things going with you? I know that Amanda sadly had to cancel her wedding in December. So how are you doing?
I'm all right. Things are, exactly the same as they were back in like December. So it's been hard. Like we're not replanning it or anything yet. Just because we don't want to have to like run into the same problem where we have to reschedule it again. So we're kind of just waiting. We were actually having a conversation last night and just kind of said like, we're hoping that we're through the worst of it. You know, like now with the vaccines and stuff that are rolling out, they always say like it has to get worse to get better. And we kind of think that like maybe November, December was like the worst. And now maybe things will get better. So we're sort of just waiting.
So and I think my favorite thing about you is like, of course, you're amazing and you're fun and you're lighthearted, but you are the most resilient person I've ever met. And this just kind of adds to that. Like the fact that like a week before your wedding, you're like, cool, this is great. You're just so resilient. And I'm so happy that you jumped on to this live with me today to share about your story and share about finding your self-love, because what happened with you was traumatic, and the fact that you 3 years later are as, you know, externally, and I know there's probably lots of things going on internally, but externally so put together, and you've been able to work through your trauma. I admire it, and I think it's really going to help a lot of women who are going through their own traumas of their own. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit of your story and what happened in Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely. So many people know, but some people don't. Obviously on October 1st in 2017, my girlfriend Ashton and I were in Vegas, just kind of having the time of our lives, watching some of our favorite people in concert. And the night just turned into this complete tragedy, and one that we never would have expected in 1,000 years that we would have been involved in. So it was a 3-day weekend kind of music fest sort of deal. We were staying right across the street in the hotel there, and we would just kind of walk over to the grounds all the time, watch our artists, have some drinks, just kind of hang out. So it was the last day of the show, and everything was good. We walked in, we actually got like our kind of first photo taken together at the grounds with the signs in the background. And they had kind of 2 different stages. So we went and saw some artists at the smaller stage, kind of walked around. And we had not really day drank that day, just because we decided to kind of go, do some shopping and go look like to the Vegas sign and all that kind of stuff. So we were relatively sober because we hadn't drank all day, like some members of our group. So essentially there ended up being about 13 of us that kind of congregated together. It was a bunch of people that my friend Ashton used to work with, who I got to know really, really quickly just because we tended to spend, most of the evenings together. So there was about 13 of us, and we all kind of ended up together watching the same shows. And we were right kind of near the front of the stage when we went and watched Jason Aldean, who was the last performer of the event. So all of us, for the most part, were together. We were kind of up near the stage. Some of us had peeled off to go get drinks. Some of us, went to the bathroom. Some of us were kind of chilling there. And it was one of those things where, you'd spent 3 days in cowboy boots and your feet were so sore. So I actually remember taking off my cowboy boots because they kind of had this like grassy turf on the ground. So I was standing there in my socks, like not wearing my cowboy boots. We're all just like, having a great time, singing and laughing and dancing. And then all of a sudden, in a split second, it went from this like supercharged, really fun, party atmosphere to this like major moment of confusion. We actually could hear a noise. So if you're kind of looking at the stage, like I'm looking at the screen, the Vegas Strip was off to our right hand side. The stage was obviously right in front of us. So we heard what we thought were people lighting off fireworks in the street. So we kept kind of like turning and looking at the strip and being like, what the hell? Like, who's setting off fireworks right now? The show was on. Like, what are you guys doing? And so we kept kind of hearing these noises, and we would turn and look and there would be nothing. And then, we'd continue on with our night until kind of at one point, I remember panning over and looking at the street and then like scanning my way back to the stage and actually like, how they have those metal barriers between like the crowd and the stage where it's kind of like a walkway, or like if they have to pull anyone out, it's kind of like a safe area for them to do that. Yeah. I remember like looking over and there was actually a girl and she had like blood on her face. And in that moment, it was kind of like, hold on a second, those aren't fireworks. And it was like everything kind of happened all at once, but it was also sort of slow motion. Like you kind of had that moment of realizing like, oh my gosh, what is going on, to being like, oh, that's gunfire. And then being like, wait, is it actually gunfire? Like, is this actually happening right now? And to that realization where like, yeah, it was, and it is. And like, what are we going to do? And so obviously like, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people are around you and everyone is kind of reacting in a different way. So for the majority of us, like, I think this is kind of, I know we're going to sort of talk on this, or we talked about it actually in your program, the Love Yourself program, about like following your instincts. And it was weird because it was like, you do have instincts. And it was one of those moments where you kind of don't have a choice. Like you just act on your instincts. So like in our brains, when you hear gunfire, you get down to the ground because you would imagine that the shooter is going to be on the same level as you. So you're like, okay, if I get low, my chances are better. So we all did. We all got low. So the group of us that were kind of remaining were there. We all reacted the same way in terms of lowering ourselves to the ground. Obviously, Jason Aldean had run off the stage because he, kind of figured out what was going on. And all around us was this mass panic. So it's like there are people that are running, there are people that are screaming. So instead of, dancing and singing like we were 2 seconds ago, everyone is panicking and running and screaming. And it's just this complete, like, it's just this thing that was just stolen from you. And all of a sudden it's just so shocking because you're like, wait a second, what is happening? So yeah, so there were people running, there were people screaming, everything was kind of chaos. Our group was low to the ground. And it was weird too, like watching the reactions of everybody because everyone was reacting so different. Like there were some people that were super calm. There were some people that were, like hysterical, and they were saying like, they kept repeating the same sentences over about like, how they were going to die and their kids. And like, there were people that were just like quiet. And it was super weird because it was like the girl Ashton that I was closest to, we kind of had the same reaction where we were just calm. And I remember us kind of being like, okay, is this what we think it is? And we were like, yep. Okay. And we both were like, okay, this is what it is. This is fine. And then, we kind of like, we're looking around us and there are bodies on the ground, and same sort of rational thinking being like, okay, is that girl? And like not having to say the words, but being like, is she? And then being like, yeah, I think she is. And it was so like thought out. And it was just like, you took something in and you processed it really quick and you were like, okay, yep, that's what it is. And you're in like defense mode almost because you don't really know what's going on. So anyways, and everyone is panicking. Everyone's kind of reacting their own way. And it was a long time. So they say that the shooter had been shooting at us for about 10 minutes. And it's weird because it's kind of one of those things where it's like you look and you're like, okay, like this is happening so quickly, but it's like actually lasting a lifetime. But it was really good because you had like a couple of members of the group that was like, okay, look at me, like look in my eyes, like, are you okay, are you hurt, are you all right? And we're like, yep. So like kind of checking in with each other. So eventually, yeah, we kind of crawled our way to that barrier by the stage. At that point, most people had kind of fled like backwards through the grounds. Because it was kind of like a narrow, like imagine like a football field. So you have like the stage at one end and everything else is kind of behind you. And that's sort of where like the exits were too. So most people had like ran the opposite way, but we went to the stage and kind of like crawled our way there once there was a break in some of the rounds. And at that point, we sort of separated. So I remember sitting there and like watching people kind of work on some of the people who had been hit. And I remember kind of panning over. And the weirdest part was there was no police or like security or anything that were guiding people. Like it was just too soon. So I remember actually like looking over. So the stage was kind of a T like this. I don't know how to show this, but anyway, yeah. So there was sort of like the walkway down the middle, and at the kind of T, I noticed a security guard. And so I just grabbed Ashton's hand and I was like, let's go. And so we went away from the rest of our group and we hopped over that metal fence. Like people kind of helped us and we ended up under the stage, where again, like there were some people kind of working on some of the people that had been hit up front of the stage. And yeah, so we were under there, and kind of then, is when we called our parents, just because we didn't really know what was happening. And obviously that was a really traumatic moment, just calling and saying like, we're here, we're like, this is what's kind of going on, we're safe right now, but we'll call you when it's over, because we didn't know what was going on. So that was actually one of the hardest points for me, I think, was talking to my mom. So it was 10 p.m. In Vegas, which I think made it 11 o'clock at night in Calgary. And it was a Sunday night. So I was actually worried that I wasn't going to get a hold of her. But we did. And so we chatted for a couple of minutes, and then everything was a little bit blurry from there. Like we kind of, I don't know how much detail you want me to go into, if this is good or not.
As much detail as you want, Amanda.
Yeah, it's always been like relatively easy for me to tell the story, and I'll kind of get to this, but I think it was sort of part of my healing process was to like say it over and over again, because it like made it less real. Like it made it more of like a story, but it was also like, I don't know, it became like, yeah, like telling a story. Like it wasn't something I went through. It was just something I was able to relay, which I think helped me. Anyways, so yeah, we were under the stage. And eventually someone lifted up the little curtain thing. Like, you know how they have the curtains that are hiding all like the metal and whatever. Someone kind of lifted up the curtain on the other side of the T, and just kind of said like, come this way, keep low. So we did, we like exited out on the opposite side of the stage, and kind of ended up on like the street that was parallel to the strip. So if the strip was here, all the hotels are kind of on this side. We ended up like one street over. And from there you were kind of on your own. So we like walked or ran through the street. So I thankfully somehow, again, like instinct reminded me to put my cowboy boots back on, because I wasn't wearing shoes. So right, like it was like one of those things where it was like, oh, I need to put these back on, and that was just something that happened that I don't remember actually doing, but obviously was so thankful for. So we're walking down the street, running down the street, and yeah, like there are people carting out victims, there are people putting bodies in the back of truck beds. Just like really traumatic stuff that, we're just trying to like hustle, and no one knows what's going on. No one knows if there's more than one shooter. At this point, we didn't know that he was up in the hotel. We just knew like kind of what was going on, but no one, that was all that we knew was going on. We didn't have any other details. So we actually ran to, I think it's Tropicana that was right there. And somehow we ended up like in the hotel through the front doors, and same thing. It was kind of like, it was really weird because all of the like tables, like all of the blackjack tables and stuff were all empty. There were drinks that were still sitting there. Like obviously the hotels have protocols where they pull all the chips off, but like cards are still on the tables, drinks are still on the tables. Everyone is kind of in hysteria. So we got into this casino, called our families again and said like, okay, we're out of there, but we're still not really sure. We'll call you again. And for some reason, an alarm went off or was going off, and we were in this hotel. And then all of a sudden people just stampeded again and like ran. So in your brain, again, you're like, okay, well, if they're running, I need to run. So we ran out the side door of the hotel back onto the street, where again, like we don't know what's going on outside. It's dark. We don't know if there's another shooter. We don't know, where anyone is or what's going on. So we kind of cross a couple parking lots and end up in MGM, which is again, like the next hotel over. And this one was weird because it was like everything was sort of supposed to be in lockdown, but someone let us in through a side door. Like it was like an emergency exit. And at the time, it was like, it did sort of register. Like, it's weird that we're able to get in here this easy when, like, who knows who's out there. So we ended up in the MGM, and it was really strange because it was like, I mean, again, it was like probably, almost 11 o'clock at this time of night, but it's Vegas. So it's like you have people that are gambling that are completely oblivious to what's going on. There's like so many sounds, so many noises, people laughing, and you're so triggered because you're like, your defense is almost down at this point because I think you kind of realize like you're a little bit safe. But then that's when the fear and the anxiety kind of starts kicking in because it's so, like, everything is so loud and it, like, no one knows what's going on, and you're like, I just went through this crazy thing, and you're over there laughing at like this slot machine. And it was this really weird environment, until like we kind of ran into some people, asked for a phone charger, talked to people at home. They were trying to give us news on like what was going on, updates on the different like things that were going on, talking to police. Actually, I had a friend in Australia who, other side of the world, different time of day, was listening somehow to the police scanners and was messaging me like with updates from the police scanners of like what he was hearing. I had a girlfriend who was here and she was up, and they were both kind of like looking for hotel rooms, like last minute hotel rooms where we could go and like check into a hotel room and stay there. So there was a lot of stuff like coming in from home, which was really nice because it was kind of keeping us in the loop. But it was hard because we were in these hotel lobbies where obviously like the news is playing on TV, and so you keep hearing that sound over and over again of like the shots firing, and people have the volume up on this TV, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like turn it off because I don't ever want to hear that noise again. And it's all around you, people watching videos on their phones and people. So that was pretty crazy. So we needed to kind of find a quiet area. Eventually they carted us off in buses to the basketball stadium, like the university basketball stadium where we stayed. And it was crazy because there was actually like this level of, good that came out of it, where you got to this basketball stadium and people like who live in Vegas had like brought food and water and coffee and blankets and like had just brought them to this stadium knowing that like that's kind of where we would be. And so it was really nice to see like, okay, look how much good there is going on, even though this terrible thing just happened. It's like we had blankets, we had granola bars, we had whatever. So we spent the night in this basketball stadium, obviously not sleeping a wink, having to fill out police forms, all that kind of stuff, because we were actually staying in the hotel that the shooter had shot from. So while some of the hotels were opening up around us, ours wasn't. So that was why we spent the night at the stadium. And they, so kind of once we filled out the statements, they'd cleared everything out. They were like, yeah, okay, you're good to go. It was really hard for us to actually get back to the strip. It was quite a far distance. And obviously they had completely shut the whole strip down. And we couldn't get like taxis, we couldn't get Ubers, like there was nothing. So we did manage to get an Uber that dropped us off a little bit outside of the strip, and we had to walk back to the hotel once we knew that the hotel was open, kind of similar to the path that we had taken the night before, which was really hard. And it was really, really eerie seeing the strip completely shut down, like no traffic, barely any people, like no music playing, no lights flashing. Like that was really strange. So yeah, we got back to our hotel. We had missed flights, but WestJet was amazing. I had missed my flight because it was in the morning and I didn't have my passport with me. And yeah, so that was kind of the experience. That was a bit of a long story, but that was kind of the experience in a bit of a nutshell. And I mean, it was one of those things where you can explain it like that, but people will never really know what it was like to be there. And I remember the closest thing we could get that would show people what we went through was there was actually a video that CNN kept playing on repeat that we were actually in the video. So it was right at the time that the shooting started, and kind of off in the corner of the video, you can see us. And so that was kind of, and it was like someone that was filming right near us who was in the crowd as well. So that's kind of like the closest thing that people could watch to like really know what it was like where we were. Because I think it was such a big crowd and it was such a big venue that when some people say like, oh yeah, I was in the Vegas shooting, you could have been, like way at the back where you could have slipped out quietly and like, yeah, you were there, but like we were there, like in the heart of it. They called it in the police report like the kill zone, and it was kind of like a horseshoe shape of where they found, you know, the bodies of the victims, and we were like right in the middle of that, and we were so lucky. But yeah, so that was kind of the experience in a nutshell. What happened?
And Amanda, like, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it does a couple things. Is first of all, I love that you said that being able to talk about it is kind of one of your healing processes. And I also love the fact that you said, you know, your instincts totally just kick in, and trusting your instincts was what saved your life that day. And I am like, hearing that story, I still get chills. And the first time I heard it, I got chills. Even you hearing it right now, I got chills. And I'm just so thankful that you're here to tell that story. And again, I can't thank you enough for being so vulnerable and open with us today to talk about it. I love you.
Of course. Thank you. I love you too.
Now, you know, after this, you get home, you get on the plane, you are trying to decompress. And again, like, you know, when you're saying you're walking back to the hotel, you're still in your cowboy boots. Am I right? You're still in your outfit. You know, like, that is when you get home, like, what is your first step to becoming who you are today, and being able to talk about it and being able to kind of move on and, you know, still go to concerts and still go to these things now, which is such an amazing feat that you've been able to accomplish.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a bit of a process. I remember, like, I mean, going to the airport is stressful enough as it is for some people, you know, going through security and all this stuff, and you just went through this crazy thing. You haven't slept a wink. You finally, like, I remember getting back to the hotel actually and like taking off the clothes that we'd been wearing for so long and the boots, and being like, and we actually like obviously had bracelets and stuff that led us into the venue. And I remember we both got back to the hotel room and cut them off right away. And we were like, get this off of me. Like, that was a really big step for us, was just being like, okay, like, cleanse ourselves of this night and this, you know. So we obviously changed, packed our stuff. Ashton's flight was later than mine was. So I basically threw my crap in a bag and like went to the airport and was like, called the WestJet person, and I was like, get me out of here as soon as you possibly can. I was like, I don't care if I have to go to like, I don't know, like Montreal and then to Calgary, or like freaking Timbuktu and back to Calgary. Like, just get me out of Vegas. And so, yeah, like, I went to the airport. I was super early just because I wanted to like know I was getting out of there. Had to fly through Vancouver, and actually, like, from the Vegas to Vancouver flight, they actually mentioned on the flight that there might be like reporters at the airport, because obviously they knew the flight was coming in from Vegas, like all that kind of stuff. And there wasn't, thankfully. It was really quiet. And then, yeah, I got home. But I just remember, like, so I was kind of trying to sleep on the plane, but I was like bawling because you finally can like let that go. You were just that release. And I just remember thinking about seeing my mom for the first time, and like thinking about it and playing that over and over again was super emotional for me. So I think by the time I actually got back to Calgary and like saw her and got to hug her, I had like processed it already, because she was an emotional wreck. But I had sort of been like, okay, I've already gone through this moment over and over and cried about this. But obviously it was like such a relief to hold her and have her hold me, and like I was home. And yeah, so they brought me home, and they kind of said, so at the time I was living alone. They brought me home, and my mom was kind of like, do you want me to stay with you? And I was like, no, like, I want to have a shower. I want to like, just, you know, like, I just want to be alone for a bit and like process. And I was like, if I need you to come back, you like, obviously I know you'll come back. So that's what I did. I like had a shower, got into some comfy clothes, and I called my friends and family who didn't really know. So like, I called my best friend. I called, you know, some of my like favorite coworkers at the time, the people that were closest to me. I called my grandma, just to be like, yeah, I'm home. Like, I'm okay. And actually, like, so yeah, that night, like, I think I just kind of stayed alone, and I don't remember really if some of my friends came over that night or if they waited maybe until the next day. But I just, yeah, like, needed to be home. And I want to say maybe a day or two later was the first time I went out in public. And it was really, really hard. So I had a friend of the family, kind of like a father figure in my life, asked me to go for coffee. And I remember like thinking, I was horrified at the idea of going for coffee, because I was like, oh my gosh, I have to be like in public with other people. But I like got up and I made myself do it. And we just went to like the local Starbucks in Chestermere. And it was like half an hour maybe, or an hour that I lasted. And I was like, I have to go home, because it was exhausting. But I still like made the step to go there. So that was kind of the first step of that healing journey, was taking that first step to go out in public. And it was scary, and it was horrifying, and it was like, the idea of it was so like I don't know, foreign, that I didn't want to, but I did anyways. So that was kind of the first step of it. And again, like I said, telling the story over and over again, because people have 100 questions and people want to know what you went through. And it was, I think, like, again, like, it's easy for me to go into such detail just because that was what I did from the very beginning, is I wanted people to know as much as possible, because hopefully me like blurting out my story would answer the majority of their questions. And then, you know, I wouldn't have to talk about it again with that group of people, or, you know, I was always
Totally.
yeah. So that was kind of the first step, I think, of like getting back and trying to like take back my life.
Amazing. And then you told me, you know, your first concert was 6 months later.
No, it was a month later.
It was a month
Or a
later.
couple
Oh my
months
gosh.
later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me that that was a super important part, like a super important step for you. So what did that look like for you?
Yeah, it was. So actually, I had a girlfriend, and she invited me to go see Kings of Leon at the Saddle Dome. And in my brain, I was kind of like, okay, like I had to work through things to be like, okay, this is different. This is not a country concert. This is not outside. This is somewhere that's like seated. It's somewhere that's familiar, that I've been a million times, like to the Saddle Dome. And so I really had to like coach myself through it to think like, okay, these are the things that make this different than what I just went to. And I remember thinking like, and we sort of said to each other right off the bat, like, Ashton and I did anyways, like, we're not going to let this guy take things from us. And so like, that was our mantra right away, was like, he's not going to take country music from us. He's not going to take concerts from us. He's not going to take Vegas from us. Like we really were like basically like, fuck you, we're taking this stuff back. And so it was super hard. Like I remember the day of being like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't know if I can go. I don't know if I can face that. But I remember saying to her, like, I'm going to come, I'm going to do this. Maybe I'll watch 5 minutes of that concert, and maybe the rest of the time I'll go sit in the bathroom, but it was really important to me to go and do it. And it was good. It was super good. I mean, I didn't enjoy a second of the concert. Like, I can't tell you a single song they played, because that wasn't what I was there for. It was like, I was there for something completely different, but it was good. Like, the only thing that really kind of triggered me that night was we were on the side of the stage. And actually it was kind of funny because we were on the opposite side of the stage that we were in Vegas. And I think that that sort of helped too, because it was all about like visuals and sounds have always been and still are kind of hard. So like to be visually like, okay, I'm not on this side of the stage, I'm on this side of the stage. Like that's another difference, was really big. And so towards the back of the Saddle Dome, anyone that's been to a concert there knows that like when a concert is almost over, people like stomp their feet to kind of get the encore, because the floors are like metal, right? So it makes a lot of noise. So obviously like that was kind of something that was like a noise that was that rapid sound. Like it wasn't super similar, but it was similar enough that I was like, I had to look and like make sure I knew that that's what was actually happening. Because in my, it's like, it's weird because you know rationally like, okay, the chances of it being another shooter here right now in my next concert is like basically zero. So I had to, but it was like always a big thing for me to have to place a sound. So like I had to look and like watch people and be like, okay, they're stomping, it's okay. So yeah, that was a huge experience for me, was getting out there and just doing it. And that was like a huge thing for me, all the way through kind of my healing journey.
Amazing. And I just love that you like that whole process is just putting your needs and putting what you need first, and not listening to people saying, oh, take your time. Like you knew what you needed and you yeah. took it, right? And I think I'm so proud of you for that. And that's not an easy feat. Now, what also isn't an easy feat is that you and Ashton went back to Vegas the year later, right? And how was that for you?
That was probably a major turning point for me, for sure. I'm not going to speak on her behalf, but I'm pretty sure that was that. So again, like that was us taking back Vegas. Prior to all that though, like when we kind of talk about, you know, like how we weren't going to let him take things away for us, part of our healing was actually going and like making sure that we forced ourselves into those hard situations. Like we went to the grocery store and it sucked. We went to the mall and it sucked. We went to bars to like have a casual drink with friends and it sucked, but we did it anyways. And it was like, whether we lasted 10 minutes or an hour, we still did it. And like, that was huge for us. So that was, again, like kind of our mantra, and my mantras too, like was just going and just doing it. And it sucked, but it really helped us heal, I think. Like, and again, I can't talk to anyone else, but I know everyone's healing journey is different. But I know like I went back to work pretty quickly. and like I had to kind of take my time. And like, again, I basically like went to work and was like, okay, I spoke to my manager and I was like, listen, people are obviously gonna want to know what I went through, what's going on. I was like, give me the floor of our meeting. Let me tell my story, basically exactly like I told it at the beginning of this live, and let me just do it. Like, and if people don't want to stay or like don't care or whatever, like that's cool. They can leave the meeting, but like I'm gonna tell this once. I'm gonna have like a Q&A kind of at the end of it, and just let people ask their questions, because they're gonna have questions and that's okay. I just don't want to have to like beat the horse to death when I can just maybe do it in one fell swoop. So that was, again, like, so telling the story over and over again and forcing myself to do the hard things and going and doing these things, that was what I needed to do. So going back to Vegas was huge for us. And we knew basically from day one that we were going to go back, and we were going to go back on the anniversary. So what we did was we actually flew in to LA, rented a car, and went to Irvine or Irving, I think Irvine in California. Jason Aldean was actually putting on another concert in Irvine. So it was only like a couple hours away. And we were going to go to that concert. So first of all, we got to finish the Jason Aldean concert that we didn't get to finish. So again, that was huge, huge, huge for us, because so throughout the summer, again, like kind of took back concerts in different ways through baby steps. So it was, you know, Kings of Leon in the Saddle Dome on the opposite side of the stage, not country music, closed quarters, to, okay, now it's Stampede and I'm at the Coke stage. And so now I'm outside and there's tall buildings around me and I'm listening to Alexis on Fire. So it's still not country music, but I'm outside, there's buildings. So like that was kind of another baby step to going to Country Thunder in August, where it was all country music festival, being outside with some of the same artists that had been there. So we kind of took that back baby step wise. So Jason Aldean's concert in an outdoor venue back in the US was a huge, huge step for us. And it was super emotional. It was really, really hard, but we knew how many people from the area would be there who were also part of the shooting. And so that kind of was nice, because we all kind of gathered and we were all there for this like common reason. And it was really, actually, it was funny because there was a Facebook group that had started. So I think it was just some girl that had started it, and it was kind of like, you know, we're gonna take back the show kind of thing too. And she had organized to get like those plastic bracelets made, like, you know, the Livestrong bracelets. So she'd like gotten like finished the set on these bracelets, and she had kind of organized this like basically like tailgate party for people to like come and mingle and whatever, because knowing it would be hard for most people. So yeah, we went to this like little tailgate party. We met some other people. We got these bracelets. We watched the show. And this time it was like, again, like I said, outside, Jason Aldean in the US, and we were on the same side of the stage as we were like at the shooting. So it was all like kind of this really crazy parallel, but it was like, he knew what he was there for and we knew what we were there for. And he gave like a shout out to the Route 91 people. And did say like, let's finish this and like, let's do this again, because we got so rudely interrupted, like kind of making a joke out of it. And it was super powerful and super emotional to watch the song that we knew had finished when the shooting started. And because like that song will never leave your brain, because you remember those moments. So that was huge, was finishing that concert and being there. And it was like just this crazy experience. So then the next day we drove to Vegas. We stayed at a completely different hotel. And we were same thing. We were like, okay, like let's do this. So we went to a hockey game. We just kind of like drank at the pool and like walked around the strip a little bit, like again, baby steps. And then we knew that October 1st was going to be a big day. And again, there was sort of someone on Facebook that had planned this. They wanted to do this like ring of people around the grounds where we were going to like, at the time the shooting started, we were going to all like stand around in kind of a circle and like make a human chain around the venue, because it was still closed. It was basically just like an empty parking lot now, but the fences were up. And so we had a couple drinks, got on the strip bus, went to the venue. And our goal, I think, was to do the same walk that we did that night. So we, went to the venue, did the human chain thing. You know, it was like kind of a moment of silence, and it was super, super powerful. Like the most emotional, just like you just kind of like let it all out. Like you just cried so much, but you were there and people were there and everyone was hugging, and everyone, it was like this family that you forgot that you had. So we did that, and then we retraced our steps. We went back down the side street. We went back into the Tropicana or whatever hotel it was. Went through there, went down the emergency exit of the stairs that we'd ran through, went through the parking lot. I don't think we could get into the side doors of MGM, but we went back into MGM. We kind of like walked around where we had been, and it was really far. And we didn't realize, I think that night, like how far we'd actually traveled. Cause you were just running on whatever you were running on. Like it was crazy. So adrenaline, I guess. Retraced our steps, and it was super powerful, and it did feel like we took it back. And like I haven't been back since then, but I feel super confident that I could go back now and have a good time. And obviously like that feeling and those memories are going to be there, because it holds such a special place in my life. But it's also Vegas. Like people love Vegas, and I love Vegas. Like I'd love to go back and like have a good time. It's always going to have those memories, but instead of them being like tainted memories, they're going to be like not loving memories either, for in all honesty, but like it's just going to be there. It's part of who we are. But yeah, we were able to kind of take back Vegas that night, and that was a huge step in healing for sure.
And I am so proud of you. That is so much more than a lot of people can do. And again, just so proud, and thank you for sharing your story. Now, I would love to get your advice. I'm all about self-love. I'm all about learning how to love ourselves in different situations. What is your number one tip for people who are going through something really traumatic? And obviously it's very different than your trauma, but what is your tip about a coping mechanism and how to learn how to love your body and love your instincts again?
Yeah, so I think like for me, again, like this situation is so unique in that like 99% of people will never go through what we went through. It was like a different level of trauma that is not normal. Like it's not an everyday life event that happens. But I think like you go through the same kind of processes you do for most traumas. Like you have that grief, you have that depression, you have that guilt, you have that like of being a survivor, you have all these different pockets that just kind of exist in real life. But it's not something everyone will go through, like a death or potentially a car accident or a really bad breakup, where you still feel those feelings. It's just different. But I would say my number one thing was you have to lean into yourself a little, because like especially in my situation, no one will ever know what that was like. No one can sympathize with you the right way. No one can empathize with you the right way, because it's so outside of the realm of imagination that like you can't be like, oh yeah, like my dog died too, or my grandpa died too, or my boyfriend broke up with me too, or oh yeah, I was also in a really bad car accident. Like you don't have that level of like comparison, like because when you talk to people and they tell you their story, and then in return you kind of are like, oh yeah, like I went through something similar. You don't have that. So I think like for me personally, and my experience and my story was, I really had to become an advocate for myself, because no one else could. I thank the Lord I had Ashton, because we went through the exact same experience. Like we were together the whole night. The other people in our group had a completely different experience, because they actually like had to leave a different way. They saw different things than we did. So like as much as we were all there together, we have such different experiences because of the different things that we saw and heard and went through that night. But with Ashton, like we could lean on each other in times where it felt like no one would understand. But I think you also had to really lean into yourself and love yourself and be like your own advocate, because no one else could be that for you. So I think like just reiterating, like take that step, take that time to just like ruminate in what you went through. But like you just have to love yourself through it. Like you just have to. There's no path. You just have to trust yourself, because you don't have another choice. So like I think that was kind of one of them. My other piece of advice is like lean on your family and friends. Tell your story ad nauseum, or like what you're going through. Spew it out, like get it out of you, because if you hold it in, or you don't know what to say, or you can't find the words, or it's trapped in your head or in your heart or in your gut, like get it out, like talk about it. because it's super therapeutic. Like just spewing what you went through is so helpful. So that would kind of be another one, would be, yeah, like talk it through over and over again. Even if you have to talk it through to yourself in the mirror, like just say it out loud. Like when you say it out loud, it becomes so much more real and it's something tangible. And then again, like it becomes like a habit almost to tell that story, because you can, like, you've done it so many times that you can almost like eventually like remove the emotion from it and just be like, yeah, this is what happened. And it helps you process it without the like sting of emotion attached to it.
Yeah, and again, I obviously, like you said, I think a lot of people they want to empathize and they
Mm-hmm.
understand, and like you said, no one will ever understand. But I think what you're kind of describing is you're able to take it out and almost like make it an other. So it's no longer you, it's like something that you can look at. And I think that's so goddamn powerful.
Yeah, it's definitely really helpful, because it's like you can't live in that for so long. Like it will destroy you. Like it will eat you alive if you just let it sit internally. Like I know, again, like some people took months to go back to work. Some people couldn't go to the grocery store for months. Like you like I mean, again, like I can't judge anyone else's experience. Just for myself, I just found it so helpful to talk about it, get it out of me, and then also, like I said, take those really small steps, those baby steps, those hard steps to go out and like put yourself back in situations that are going to be hard. They were hard. It wasn't easy to take that step and go to the concert. It wasn't easy to go to the grocery store. It wasn't easy to walk around the mall for 2 hours while Apple was fixing my iPhone. Like, but there are things that you just sort of had to do. And that was a huge thing for me, was like, that was my experience. And that was, again, like that was sort of an instinct too for me, I think, was, you know, like you just kind of followed your gut. Like there would be things I was invited to and I was like, yep, I'm doing this. And then there would be things I was invited to that I was like, nope, not today. And so that was really like, I think that was your gut instinct too, was like, nope, you're not ready for that. Okay, yes, you probably don't feel like you're ready for that, but you're going to do it. And like, that was a huge thing, like learning to like listen to myself and just like allowing myself the days where I needed to be sad and I needed to be a victim and I needed to like play the victim card. Like there were days I needed to do that. Like I needed to say like, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not coming. No, I need you to be sensitive to what I went through for this. Like there were so many things. And like my friends and family were great. Like it was like, actually, even I remember you like at your engagement party, like you pulled me aside and you were like, listen, like I know fireworks are hard for you. We're lighting a couple fireworks off, like just to give you a heads up, because you were sensitive to that. And that was something that, you know, not everyone's going to think about, but like, you know, people will be like, oh, like, did that bother you? Or did I say something and that was like a trigger for you? Or, you know, like everyone, that like really helped too, was being aware of like what was going on. And yeah, like being, but again, it's like you, like I was at your engagement party and I watched the fireworks and it was like, it sucked. And Stampede and the fireworks every damn night sucks. And like, that's not going to go away. Like New Year's, fireworks, Christmas, fireworks, Canada Day, fireworks. And like fireworks suck for me still, but it's like this mental game. You have to be like, okay. And actually I went to see a counselor at one point just to like double check that my healing journey was like appropriate. Because you do want a little bit of satisfaction knowing that you're making the right choices and you're like healing the right way. And not, again, not right or wrong for anyone but me. But I remember her saying like, you have to live in that moment and it's going to be hard, but you have to like list off the things that are different. Because like even movies, like I remember when I first got back, any movies with like a shooting scene were hard. And it was like, I had to sit there and she was like, sit and watch a shooting scene in a movie. And she's like, sit there and listen to that sound and be like, this sound is different. This is different. I am not there. This is not where I was. These things are not connected, because you really have to like live in them. So you do like, you watch the movie with the gunfire, you sit and you listen to fireworks and it sucks. And you just really have to take that step to be like, to do the hard work, to be like, okay, this is not that. I'm not there. This is not the same. And like get through it. And it gets easier. It has for me a little bit. I mean, obviously I still don't love fireworks. I probably never will. I didn't love them to begin with, to be honest. I'm like neither here nor there with fireworks. Now I don't like them, but it's like I can hear them in the distance and I'm not in a panic. It's like I have that initial like, oh my gosh, reaction, but it's not like it doesn't like control my life really anymore. And it did for a long time, those sounds and some certain sights and different things. Like you have the different triggers, but you really just have to work through them internally and externally. Like I'm a huge external processor. So obviously by me just rambling on forever, I could talk forever.
No, I love it. And
I
will never be able to appreciate enough about you being so open with me. And when we first met and you first told me the story, I remember just sitting there and being so proud, because we didn't know each other that well at that point. No. But I was so proud, and I was just so drawn to your ability to love yourself enough to say, I'm not perfect, this is what happened, and that's okay. And I am so proud of you, and I thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you want to share with anybody?
No, like I think like the biggest lesson, like I said, is like you kind of just have to learn to trust yourself, and you're going to have bad days, and you're going to have days where you feel like your gut is telling you the wrong thing, and like maybe it is that day, but you just kind of have to keep going. Like you have to just keep going through it, allow yourself to have those bad days, really take those hard steps. And if you take that step and it's too hard, like back off, let yourself, like give yourself that grace to be like, nope, I tried and I failed and it's cool. And then again, like not looking at it as a failure, be like, nope, I tried and today was not my day. Or like, nope, I'm having a bad day today and I'm going to let myself have a bad day today. Or like just everything, like, and like, I think you can apply that to lots of stuff. Like you said, like body image, you're allowed to have days where you're like, oh, I don't like my little stomach roll. And other days you can be like, yeah, I'm going to do a dance like partially naked in a mirror. And you have to allow yourself to have both. So you have to just like let yourself kind of live in that moment, get it out there, and trust yourself. I think that's like a huge thing. And
it's not positivity complex is one that I'm not a big component for. I also totally agree that when things happen, we don't always have to be positive. We just have to do our best, and we always make the right decisions of what we have, the information that we have at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much, Amanda. I love you.
Welcome.
You are one of my favorite people. Thank you for sharing. I'll be sharing this on my live after. And if you want to reach out to me, send me a message and we can chat.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Happy weekend.
Happy weekend.